The Ministry of Lands today kicks off the land records digitization process. The aim is that ensuring services of the ministry can be accessed online. The exercise, which will take 2 weeks, will see efficient and effective administration and management of land resources. To achieve this, the Ministry of Lands has suspended its operations in Nairobi and other central registries. A news center this morning, we are interrogating this fresh bid by the Lands Ministry to automate services there. Right. And welcome back to News Center. Thank you very much for staying with us. Remember that that's the conversation that we're having also online. We're asking to see and, of course, to get your views really with regard to this fresh bid by the Ministry of Lands to automate land services. Hashtag, like I mentioned, is KTN News Center. Talk to me. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Or you can also choose to tweet me directly at Betty M. Kialo. So before we get into our discussion here in studio, I just want us to listen to what the Lands CS, Farida Karunei, had to say with to what she intended to do with regard to the digitization of the records at the Lands Ministry.
The point at which you write a sale agreement, you buy land, you get a deed, you get a title, and each of those processes is manual. That is inefficiency. It takes you a long time to obtain a service that should ideally take you a few days. So I will not tire, but I will insist that the easiest and most effective way to reduce the cost of managing land is to automate these processes. We cannot be continuing in 2018 to transact things on paper when the world has gone digital. We need to transfer most of our processes to digital forms, not just the land transaction processes, even our mapping. I think we need to start geomapping. I mean, use technology to map our lands, to draw our beacons. And I think that is work that is already going on in the Ministry of Lands from the brief I got from the PS. To make sure the recording process is digital, and all the processes that you need to go through before you own land are actually in digital form.
All right, so that's Farida Karunei, just of course giving a breakdown of the plans that she had at the time of her interview. Remember, about a few weeks ago, to do with digitization of land records. Remember, that is our big topic this morning. We want to hear your thoughts on this one also. KTN News Center is the hashtag. I just want us to take a look right now at some of the services really that will be digitized. There you go on the screen, some graphics there. Number one, of course, ownership transfer. Number two, consent issuance, land rate clearance certificate, registration of land documents, and land searches. So those are the services that will be digitized with this process that begins today until the 3rd of April. All right, so let's have our discussion here in studio. Like I promised, let me introduce my guests. Joining us on set, I'll start with the lady, Esther Ogega, who's the Acting Lands Secretary. Thank you very much for joining us, Esther.
Thank you.
Right, we also have Ken Gishinga, who's an economist and also the MD of Mentoria Consulting. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so I'll start with you, Esther, because this is a fresh bid, meaning that this has been attempted before, but it didn't quite work. What do you think is a difference between what happened before and now? What is different this time around?
What I can say, the earlier attempts were actually undertaken in the ministry, and we moved a step forward. So we cannot actually say we did succeed.
Right.
Because we are dealing with very big volumes of analog data. The difference now is that most of the information has actually been captured. And the purpose for closing the Nairobi and Central Land Registry at this time is to validate that data, that is to clean it up, and also to update it.
All right.
Otherwise, it's captured. And then also to actually find out from the system what has not been captured, so that we can capture that.
All right. So you're saying that, it's not like the first attempt failed. It was actually something that was ongoing.
It was ongoing.
It's only that now we'll see, a continuing of now the process that had already started.
Exactly.
That's what. Okay. Let me come to you, Ken. Earlier on, we were talking before the show started, and you were very excited about this digitization process. Why?
I'm very excited. I think this is something that should give us butterflies in our stomachs.
Really?
Because if you look at the two biggest problems Kenya has had from independence, it's been inefficiency in flow of money and inefficiency in land transactions. So M-Pesa solved the first problem, but now what's happening today is actually going to solve the second problem. So if you get these two things right, I think it's going to be a fantastic game changer for this country.
All right. So let's go back to the services that will be digitized. Maybe if you could just break them down, and also just comparing. I mean, even with the land searches, there used to be such a big issue. People would really, you want some piece of land, then there are all these people, the brokers and everything. What will this digitization mean for the lands ministry, and especially for Kenyans who want to buy land, want to sell land?
What this means is that the services now will be offered online, and we shall now avoid the face-to-face contact between staff and public. So it means you can actually access this data and transact from the comfort of your house or wherever you are. That is what we aim to achieve. So we want to also avoid these queues that have been in the land registry and all lands offices,
Right.
such that the services are now efficient and closer to Mwananchi wherever they are. We also don't have to have all those big offices full of records because everything will be online.
All right.
Yes.
So, okay, so just going back to, to the services that will be not digitized. So give us a breakdown of, say, I want to sell my land or I want to buy land. So what then happens? Do I open an account? Is it the same way as, if you want to sell a car or buy a car, where you go on the online platform and do that?
What you want now, if you want to buy or sell land, you will search online to find out actually whether the information is correct. The LR number, the ownership. If someone is selling you that land, you'll be able to find out whether actually that is the person who is selling that land. The application to transfer will be online. So you will prod the system that we are using the eCitizen platform. So you will actually click. The identifier is your ID. Then you will actually access using your password. And if there are any dues to be paid, we shall actually use the GDP, the Government Digital Payment System, that whose number has been given as 206206, the pay bill number.
Right.
So the system will actually prod you so that you actually pick the service you require. Then you can proceed because it will actually guide you. Yes.
And that as simple as that. And that's
It is as simple as that.
Simple as that.
But that means we have the back office where all the whatever you are doing, the back office will actually be checking whether it is correct. Yeah. To ensure that the system is not infringed by people who don't mean well.
Okay,
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, Ken, coming back to you, what does this mean economically? To be able to go through such not a complex process. Now we won't be able to see the brokers, who
Correct.
normally come in between and make everything complicated. What will it mean for the country economically?
Economically.
Yeah.
So the big thing right now is, for example, counties, they're able to raise any revenue. Article 209 of the Constitution says a county can raise a revenue from 3 different types of sources, from property taxes, entertainment taxes, or any other tax. Now, the challenge with collecting property taxes has been a lot of people do not have title deeds. In fact, they say only 10% of Nairobi landlords pay taxes on land rates. So the county has been missing a lot of opportunity to raise funding for this. If you look at areas such as Outer Ring, all the way to Kamulu, a lot of people don't have title deeds. So they really can't even pay the land rates. The counties can't raise revenue.
Right.
And that's why the counties are depending so much on the national government for funding when they should be able to raise their own
sustain.
revenue. Exactly.
All right. So we're seeing now the people actually being able to pay,
Exactly.
what they need to pay.
Exactly.
All right. And so now that the registry has been closed, what happens to the processes that were currently ongoing?
We are first of all concentrating on the Nairobi registry, which means the services in other registries are ongoing. What is closed is just the Nairobi and Central Registry, which are in Adi House, Nairobi. The other services are ongoing. So we actually have a small group of officers the services that don't need Mwananchi to come are actually going on. There's a group that is handling that, but the majority are actually handling that, the services that are supposed to go online. So it's only 10 days, and we are asking Kenyans to bear with us because it's the good for all of us. Then after that, we can open and everything will be online. We want those queues to be a thing of the past. And I think it is better for the economy. In the process also, once we digitize, it will be very easy for us to collect taxes in the forms of stamp duty, land rent, searches. So we expect actually the Mwananchi to benefit more because the money collected can go to be used for other development activities.
So after April 3rd, all the information about, the title deeds, everything will be online. And if I've been able to buy land in the past, I should be able to get my information online.
It will be online, but let's say where you require an advocate, you will have to go to an advocate. Where you require legal representation, that one will still be undertaken, but the other services will be online. But there is the way now we shall link whatever the advocates are doing and what the ministry are doing. Because, most people want to be represented to be sure. But what we want to assure Kenyans is that the system is credible and the documents that will be generated by the system will actually be credible documents. And that is the only way we have found that can actually reduce what you said about brokers and any busybodies who are actually handling land matters and for other motives that are actually not.
Right.
Not okay.
Right. I'll ask Ken this a question that I also want you to answer. And of course, just looking at the tweets online, and people are like, this will be resisted by cartels who are always making everything complicated when it comes to selling land, buying land, and all these things. Do you think that there could be challenges implementing this particular digitization of these records because there are people who will miss out on coming in between, conning Kenyans and doing all manner of things?
I think cartels have been one of the biggest problems this country has had. If you think about it, what we call the information asymmetry problem, where the person selling the land and the person buying the land don't have the same information.
Yeah.
And that leads to fraud, it leads to corruption, it leads to so many things. One of the reasons that they are doing this digitization process is they want to implement what they call the blockchain technology, where you have something called the single source of truth. If you sell me a piece of land, it's recorded in so many different databases that if anybody even tried to hack into one of them, every other database would sort of nullify it. So I think that single source of truth is going to make asset transfer so easy. If you wanted to apply for a mortgage, one of the things that makes mortgages such a lengthy process is the whole asset transfer process. So you're going to reduce the cost of mortgages, the cost of land selling. So I think for me, it's a fantastic thing. But you're right, cartels have been there in the past. They've tried to frustrate it in many ways. But from what I'm seeing right now, it seems there's a new level of political will behind it. And you've talked about the security of of this platform, because that would be another issue if it can be hacked, if there are people who can get into that system. Have you been able to consider all those things?
Thank you. All that has been considered, and the Ministry of Lands is not in this alone. We are working with the Ministry of ICT, so they have ensured they've put all measures to prevent hacking and anything interference with the system. And we have also learned from the past, from what we have been doing. So if there was any issue, it has been addressed. And you remember recently, the ministry also invited EACC, as you saw the cabinet secretary talking about it last week. So there is no fear at all, and we don't expect any problems that have been there in the past. We also want to ensure that the officers who are handling that system are well trained. We have already trained them, and they are actually capable of detecting anything that could arise. And the experts in IT are also there. And we have the support of the government. We are committed to the cause, and we are raring to go, and we don't expect to fail.
All right.
So what we are asking Kenyans is to support us, because this is our government, and we are all in it. this is good for our country. Yes.
And now, for the illiterate people who maybe are in the villages or in the rural areas, how will they be able to do this? Will there be something to do with civic education where they're taught, or somebody is able to give them guidance on how to go about it?
We shall do civic education about it, and we shall also have people to guide them. For example, at the house, there is an office that is dedicated. We have got these ICT people, and also our officers, they sit there to actually guide them. So if someone cannot be able to handle the system, they'll be guided. And in the long run, I think everybody will be able to adopt the methods we are using, because at first, people could not use mobile phones, but now everyone can use, even the people in the village. So we expect finally everyone will be able to use the system. It is simple and easy to use, and it also guides you. And also, I believe most of Kenyans now are literate. And wherever there is an illiterate person, there is someone who can assist them.
Right.
So we expect at least people to cooperate in all this.
To cooperate. Yes. All right. Can just come into you also. I mean, like I mentioned, she mentioned that this has been an ongoing process of it. At the end of the day, when this whole process is complete, from where you sit, what would be your expectations of this project or this process?
So right now they're saying 80% of people who come to Ardhi House come to do searches.
Yeah.
If that can be taken to the mobile phone, let me baptize it M-Shamba. That can be an M-Shamba platform where you can actually search. Because a lot of people sometimes are worried that the piece of land is being transferred without their knowledge. So they come from as far as Marsabit, Mandera, every 3 months just to do a search.
Yes.
So if that can be done on the mobile phone, think of all the issues around road accidents that are being removed. Think the issues about lack of congestion, so that the Ministry of Lands can actually focus on service delivery. For me, think of about turnaround time on any land transaction. For me, that turnaround time is going to save the cost of land development, is going to make our property market so attractive to the rest, to international investors. One of the things that investors like from Dubai, when they come to Kenya, they say they find it very hard to understand our property market because theirs is very efficient.
Yes.
So if we can do that, think of all the foreign direct investment that can come into real estate. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic.
All right. Esther, do you think that there is a downside, considering that, maybe a number of people might lose their jobs? The people who have been in these offices are tending to Kenyans, like you said, that the long queues. There are people who have been doing that job. What happens to them? Does it mean that their jobs will be rendered no longer, efficient or even needed?
I actually don't think anybody will lose their jobs. What will happen is that people will actually concentrate on relevant jobs. So if you have been doing a job that's actually not relevant and it's now offered online, maybe you will have to do something else. For example, you won't need brokers, but because the system itself is self-regulating. And I think that one is actually better for Kenyans. So maybe that energy, we can say it can be actually channeled elsewhere. And for the staff, I think they even have got more work now to do. So there's nobody who will actually lose their jobs. Only that the efficiency will improve. And at that level, we shall eliminate the leakages that have been there. And it is good actually for everyone. So we don't expect, nobody should be worried that they are going to lose their job.
No jobs will be lost.
No job.
All right, that's a good thing. I was going to ask you the feeling about that, because people will be like, one of the things that the digital era has done, it has really cut down on the number of people that you need to give some certain services.
Correct.
Right. Interesting. All right. So we want to, of course, get some of the views that you have online with regard to our conversation. And remember that we're asking you for your views with regard to the digitization of the records at the Lands Ministry. Let me sample one or two tweets as we continue with our discussion here on the show. Right. Okay, fine. So you say, so I have somebody here, Wanjohi Kamau, saying, will still the corrupt officials, okay. I think he's trying to ask, the corrupt officials, in the Ministry of Lands, like if they are indeed any, have you been able to filter out so that at least you don't still carry the problem along, especially to do with the staff?
Actually, the issue of inappropriate behavior at work has been addressed. We are working very closely with EACC and other government organs that deal with such kind of behavior. Criminal activities,
Yes, yes.
forgeries, all concerned are on board. And actually where they have a few officers have been arrested, because in every institution you expect some people who actually will do things that are not expected.
Yes.
So when it comes to that, some people have been taken to court, others are under investigation, but there will be no room for corruption in this system. There will be no room for that.
Completely.
That's why we are closing the offices so that we validate this data. We ensure that the data we have is correct, and there is nobody who can manipulate it.
All right.
So it's actually being taken care of. And the officers have been sensitized. The officers who work in the ministry are actually vetted. There are government mechanisms of vetting officers. That has been done.
All right.
And if any such problem arises, it will be addressed on the spot.
All right. All right. Coming to you, Ken, how do you think the national government and the county governments can indeed work together to ensure that even the land issues at the county level are also taken care of?
Well, that's a fantastic question. One of the challenges we saw in the last iteration of devolution was we saw the county governments taking a different posture from the national government. That's why we saw a lot of national projects having a big challenge. Right now, when I look at the Council of Governors, they seem to be much more aligned with the Big Four strategy, especially on with healthcare, manufacturing, real estate. So I think for me right now, it's going to be synchronizing these land registries. I think what Esther might tell us later on is the sequencing of how this will happen. So the phase 1 is going to happen in Nairobi. Phase 2 will happen in what you call the metropolitan counties of Kajiado, Kiambu, Machakos.
Yes, yes.
Then, of course, you're going to have all the other counties coming in. Obviously, that's where the big chunk of land transactions take place within the Nairobi metropolitan. If they can synchronize the registries, so if you go to your home county of Kisii, for example, you have nothing to do with the Nairobi RD House. You can be sorted all your issues from Kisii. I think that's going to make the lives of a lot of people much more easier, and it's going to make counties much more wealthier.
All right. Interesting. You want to add on that, Esther?
Yes, thank you. What is going to happen is that once we are through with Nairobi, we shall link the data to all registries. As he's saying, we have phase 1. Then we are also thinking of the departments, because it's like each department has a standalone digitization program. You find survey, they have the cadastral information system. Physical planning is also doing digitization. Land adjudication is also doing digitization. So is valuation. So what we are going to do is to integrate all these systems. Then we link them to all the 62 registry and other land offices we have, like survey, physical planning, adjudication, and all that, such that Mwananchi is able to access data from anywhere.
All right.
So we are taking care of that.
All right.
Yes.
Let's also just, of course, talk about the challenges that have been there in the past.
Yes.
And, there are many issues that surrounded really the lands ministry. What can you say have been the biggest challenges so far in ensuring that, the records in the counties, in the country, basically, are actually up to a great standard?
What we have done to ensure the records are safeguarded is that we have actually started capturing records in various registries across the country. We have done Mombasa, Thika, Kiambu, Kilifi, mainly the ones around Nairobi metropolitan area.
Yeah.
We also done as far as Nakuru. And we are also working with our development partners also to try and help us put up some land registries in the far-off areas like Marsabit. We are working with some organizations. And also, what we are doing in the counties also is also to put our service charter, so that when the Mwananchi comes, they can look at the charter and know this service can actually be accessed within a specified time.
All right.
And also what we are requesting Wananchi is that should they see any activities that are not proper, they can even report to the government organs that deal with with that
and
matter.
They will be heard.
They'll be heard. We also have actually a public complaints committee in the office. We work very closely with the Commission on Administrative Justice. So whatever issues come there, they come to the ministry. We address them. Some are genuine, some are not. But we make sure we are handling those matters so that we can actually satisfy the public. So we are on it, and we are trying our best.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Martin Short, Ken?
Well, I think if you look at the next 5 years, if you look at Kenya as an economy, we are a very young demographic. Actually, the average median age for Kenya is 19 years. So a lot of these people are finishing campus, getting into their first jobs, and they want to become homeowners as quickly as possible. One of the things that has been preventing them from being homeowners is the fear of getting caught up in all the land fraud that surrounds the land industry. So I think if we can make a level playing field where it's as easy as clicking a button and transferring a piece of property, I think we're going to see so much vibrance, and I think we're going to see the property values actually going up. So I think for me it's a fantastic thing.
It's a fantastic thing. Esther, as you give us your last words, people who would be concerned about their information getting lost. So will you assure Kenyans that indeed that this will not happen, that when after the 3rd of April, once they go online, they'll be able to get all the information? And even for people who maybe would not, what would be the answer to that?
I want to assure Kenyans that their information is secure. And as with all systems, when they start, there could be issues. But we want to address issues as they come. We have started, and we don't want to go back. So if there is any issue, it will be addressed as it arises. That one comes with all systems. So we don't want Kenyans to be afraid to go to land registries. We want them to make the land registries as friendly as possible. And then with time, they will not even need to go there. They'll be working from their homes. And any queries, we shall put up a link where you can actually ask any question you want, and it can be answered.
All right. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been speaking to Esther Ogega, who's the acting Lands Secretary, together with Ken Gishingos, an economist and an MD for Mentori Consulting. Thank you very much for your time. All right. So we want to take a commercial break. We're coming back to continue with our coverage. Don't go away.